Hello, my name is Caroline Ammon, and I am a writing tutor with the San Jose State University Writing Center. Today's workshop will focus on writing for everyone. For this workshop, you will need a pencil and paper, but no additional materials are required. Let's get started. When we write, we must remember that our audience is not just ourselves. Different people from all walks of life will hear what we have to say, especially in diverse areas such as the San Francisco Bay Area. So a check-in in our communication habits can be helpful. As writers, we want to avoid causing feelings of discomfort or alienation to our audience. In this video, I will provide you with a few tips and tricks to make your writing more inclusive and accessible. The first thing to avoid as a writer is to assume that your readers are just like you. Many of us are guilty of this, as we have the tendency to find meaning in shared experiences. However, assuming sameness is exclusive and alienating and should be avoided. Try to avoid assuming your readers are the same race, gender, or economic status as you, as these types of assumptions could come across in your writing, making others feel excluded. Let's look at an example to see how people could feel alienated by an assumption of sameness. Let's read this passage together. Hey ladies, everyone did an amazing job this past week at learning the new swing routine. To reward all of your hard work, we will be hosting a potluck and party this Friday at 7:30 p.m. Make sure you come and bring your guy too. You'll need a partner after all. What assumptions is the writer making about their audience? This message excludes any member of the club who aren't women, and in addition, it excludes any members of the club who are not heterosexual women or even single. So how do we fix it? Please pause the video and note down a few ideas for how to make this passage more inclusive. First, we want to utilize a more inclusive opening that does not divide our audience based on traits. For the above passage, it would be useful for the writer to consider opening the message with a more gender-neutral, "Hi everyone," or even a playful "Howdy." As for the last portion, you can both simplify the language and remove the assumption of sameness in one go. Stating something like, "Bring a partner or a friend if you would like," would fit well here. Let's take a look at another tip to help us write more inclusively. When we describe people, we often use adjectives and labels to clarify who they are. However, it's important to remember that people are people first, not their traits. We want our writing to reflect this. To do this, we use people-first language. What is people-first language? Well, people-first language will often use the word people or person first, followed by the descriptor. This language could look more like people who are gay instead of gays, people with disabilities instead of disabled adults, or a person with a mental health condition instead of a mentally ill person. Person first terms read as additional details about real people, while something like gays reads as a collection of things and is thus dehumanizing. This type of language can be objectifying. When you label people by their descriptions, you focus on one part of someone's identity. Furthermore, if that part of their identity is not relevant to the situation at hand, it can be especially harmful. Before using the descriptor, carefully consider if it is relevant to the given situation. If it's not relevant, don't use it. Let's look at an example of how people may feel objectified by language. Let's read this passage together. It has come to our attention that Mill Springs public parks have limited accessibility protocols in place for the disabled. We're putting together an action committee to explore this issue and come up with solutions. What is wrong with this passage? This passage reduces people with disabilities to the disabled, defining this group by a trait. So how do we fix it? Please pause the video and note down a few ideas for making this passage more inclusive. By simply using people-first language, we have made this passage less alienating to people with disabilities. By replacing the disabled with people with disabilities, we are no longer describing people solely by a trait or descriptor. Another way to make our writing more inclusive is to avoid perpetuating harmful ideas of normal. Our social surroundings, families, and friend groups impact the ways we think about and engage with our surroundings. Being aware of this is the first step to overcoming harmful ideas of normal. It is dangerous to compare people against an idea of normality. Toxic standards have harmed many demographics, so it is crucial to not perpetuate that cycle in your communication. For example, members of the LGBTQ+ community are often labeled abnormal or unusual due to dangerous heterosexual social structures and standards. This is especially the case for transgender people, who are frequently highlighted as outliers whenever anatomy or gender is discussed. Whenever we use or see the word normal in our writing, it is indicating that other possibilities are abnormal. Comparing someone against an invented, unreasonable standard of normality can be damaging to their self-esteem and can create discrimination and bias in our writing. Let's look at an example of how harmful ideas of normal may appear in our writing and communication. Let's read this passage. Hello, SJSU. This weekend, we are hosting a board game night at the beloved Spartan Loft. Located in the attic of the old McKinney Tower, make yourself at home in this cozy location. To get there, take the east stairwell to the top floor. What is wrong with this passage? The message implies that it is normal to be able to use the stairs, making anyone with limited mobility or other health concerns feel abnormal. So how do we fix it? Please pause the video and note down a few ideas to improve this message and make it more inclusive and accessible. We can include a paragraph addressing accessibility as a consideration, perhaps stating, "We chose a location with an elevator to ensure accessibility for everyone." By doing this, we're acknowledging that not everyone has the same abilities. By thinking of the needs of others, we are cultivating a more inclusive environment. Let's look at one more tip for making our writing more inclusive and accessible. That tip is to avoid inaccessible language. As writers, we often write what we know. This could include cultural references or expressions, discipline-specific terminology, or academic jargon. These features of our writing may not be clear to readers outside of our cultural, social, and academic circles, making your writing inaccessible to others. Let's look at an example of how inaccessible language can confuse members of our audience. Let's read this passage together. Due to an error in planning, we have decided to take a rain check for the Monday morning meeting. We will keep you all posted. What is wrong with this message? The message uses two English expressions that may not be obvious to multilingual speakers. The phrase, take a rain check, means to postpone, cancel, or delay a meeting or event. Keep you posted means to keep someone informed of the latest development or news. Neither of these are obvious to multilingual speakers and may result in confusion. So how do we fix it? Please pause the video and note down a few ideas for how to make this message more accessible. By simply replacing expression with clear language, we can make this message more easily understood by a broader audience. Sometimes simplified language can make all the difference. To review, we have discussed 4 tips to make our writing more accessible and inclusive to our audiences. First, we should avoid assumptions of sameness, as every one of our audience members are unique. Second, we should avoid objectifying people with language by using people-first language. Third, we should avoid harmful ideas of normal, as our ideas of normal are narrowed by our own experiences. Fourth, we should avoid using inaccessible language that may confuse or alienate members of our audience. Remember, nobody is perfect. If you find yourself doing the things that this video advises against, remember that these are common issues that anyone can work to change. Just try to stay informed and write with good intentions. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video on writing for everyone. I hope you found the information helpful and insightful for your own writing. For more information on this topic or others, please take a look at our website, sjsu.edu/writing center, or take a look at our workshops that we offer throughout the semester. Please also look at our Writing Center blog. I wish you the best of luck on all your future writing endeavors.